Imagine a soft morning in the great city of Rome. One historian notes that the average Roman citizen awoke each morning, labored, relaxed, and ate. In the golden dawn, the unsung people of the empire gently stir from sleep. Narrow streets begin to fill with light. Smoke from clay oil lamps fades, and the city's polyglot populace, Greeks, Syrians, North Africans, Gauls, and Britons, quietly stretch awake. From lavish domos on the Palatine Hill to crowded tenements insulae. In the heart of the city, men and women begin another day. In this calm hour, the bustling capital is still faintly hushed. A soft breeze rustles palace curtains as master and maid rise for morning prayers at their household shrine, and the distant bleat of sheep on the outskirts drifts in like a lullaby. As families rouse, they step from their homes into a city tightly packed with dwellings. Most Romans live in multi-story apartments called insulae, often 5 to 7 stories high. It is chilly on the upper levels, hot below, and only the wealthiest have space to spread out. At street level, small shops front the buildings. Above them inside, rooms are dim and cramped. In contrast, a very few patricians dwell in private mansions with inner courtyards and running water, a luxury fed only by aqueducts into public baths and fountains, not private homes. But most Romans, rich and poor, step from their door. Onto narrow, uneven lanes, the stone streets are still cool underfoot. Oil lamps have been extinguished. In this quiet morning air, the city is slowly awakening, one neighbor at a time. Even as it cools, hunger whispers gently. By tradition, Romans start the day with a light breakfast. There is no warm cereal or fruit salad. Instead, one might eat pannies flat or coarse bread, perhaps dipped in watered-down wine or drizzled with olive oil and honey. Fresh-baked bread is piled high at the local baker's stand. Olive vendors wheel out barrels, and fruit merchants arrange baskets of plums, grapes, and figs, the ancient sweet tooth. The common people nibble on these as snacks through the morning. All food is unpreserved. Meat and fish must be fresh each day since there is no refrigeration. About every dish tastes lightly seasoned with garum, a pungent fish sauce, the ketchup of Rome. The wealthiest added spices like pepper from India or saffron from the East. Another small meal of bread and cheese or beans helps tide workers over, a far cry from the rich, later feast to come. The island kitchen in the insula would host a few slaves or servants, stirring pots of boiled pulses or vegetable stews. Even some delicacies can surprise a modern ear. The edible dormouse, a fattened rodent, was a prized treat. Peacock tongues and broiled dormice might appear only at the grandest banquets, a reminder that for the poor, supper is modest. Bread, olives, beans, fish or eggs, and perhaps a handful of grapes. In a quiet moment over bread, any leftover food scraps would also be poured out in a small offering to the household Larry's guardian spirits, so that each meal itself is part of prayer to the family gods. The morning also brings the change of clothing and duties. Gentle lie easing into clothing. A Roman man or woman dresses for the day. Freeborn citizens wear the standard tunic, a simple wool or linen garment, like a knee-length shirt, dyed plain or striped to indicate status. Often the patricians have long tunics or silk-trimmed ones, while plebeians, commoners, wear shorter, plain ones. Over the tunic, a citizen male will later drape a toga for public life. The toga is an enormous semicircle of wool, about 5.5 meters long by 2.1 meters wide, and thus very heavy and cumbersome. Indeed, one modern scholar notes that toga was expensive and heavy, requiring emperors to decree its use at public ceremonies simply because it was such a bother too. Where women of status wear the stola and palla instead, but wives at home unbind their fine cloaks and tend the household. Are taken to the phonica, the laundry where even urine is used to bleach the wool. By mid-morning, Roman men head out to their work. The bustling forum and markets serve as the economic heart. Artisans open tile-roofed stalls to hammer out pottery. Leather workers or cobblers set out their wares on benches, and bakers and brewers haul grain and wine from large store jars. Farmers from the countryside unload olives and figs at the stalls, while fishermen display fresh mullet and sardines. Wealthy Romans might own these stores or employ freedmen to run them. Average sieves often work them. The workday is short. It is lawful to begin at dawn and cease around noon. Only 6 hours of labor before the city truly pauses. By midday, the sun is high and the air warms. Civic life slows after lunch. In fact, historians tell us that the afternoon is almost sacred to leisure. Patrons and clients, craftsmen and merchants alike, flock to the baths, the theater, or the racecourse. The afternoon was devoted to leisure, attending the games, the theater, or visiting the baths, explains one source. It was for this very reason that Roman citizens enjoyed free or very cheap spectacles. The political idea of panem et circenses, bread and circuses, kept people content. Marcus, our imagined citizen, donates his minutes at his barber's soap benches. Others line the Circus Maximus to wager on chariot races. Perhaps a small group listens rapt to news read aloud by a preco in the forum. After all, Rome's free daily newspaper was essentially town criers shouting the latest edicts. And gossip? Women, when free to attend, sit modestly in the back rows of the theater. Children tumble in the yard, and even out-of-towners come to marvel at such sights. Marcus's noon might also be marked by ritual. Every domus has a small shrine to the Lares and Pinates household deities at the entrance. Each family offers wine, bread, or honey cakes to these spirits as thanks for the meal. On certain days, entire communities gather at street corner Laurea to sacrifice to neighborhood gods. And if it happens to be December, the city erupts with Saturnalia festivities. In that festival of role reversal, even slaves, who had hard lives, could relax and have fun, notes one calendar. Masters would invite slaves to the table and even serve them, a shocking inversion of normal life. Imagine even the austere Marcus chuckling to see his own cook speak freely of dreams, something unimaginable any other time of year. When the sun starts westward and the city's lamps are prepared, the Romans gather at home for their main meal. This dinner, or cena, arrives around 3 or 4 p.m., the hour when workers' stomachs rumble and business stalls resume for a brief evening reopening. By now, the kitchens are in full swing. Stew pots of vegetables bubble. Rich sauces simmer, and slaves carry platters into a triclinium dining room. The family reclines on couches, leaning on the left elbow, eating with their hands, often long nails kept clean by constant finger rinsing, or small spoons. Again, the fare depends on wealth. A poor household might eat barley, porridge, bread, olives, cheese, and perhaps a lentil soup. Wealthier families enjoy multiple courses. Exotic fruits, figs, dates, or spiced wine might appear. And every table has a bowl of garum so strong it reddens anything. Some delicacies are truly bizarre to our ears. Romans famously relished stuffed dormice and even simmered swan or exotic birds with honey. On ordinary days, though, the rich most often feast on roast pork or lamb, while leftovers and scraps are often ground together as poultice, a rustic mush. After dinner, conversation turns to philosophy or stories, and the day's labors gently fade from mind. Marcus's wife Julia oversees the household tasks. By law, she held no public office and could not vote, but she manages the home economy with authority. She likely tends spinning or weaving in a shaded corner, her keys to the pantry showing her status as mater familias, mistress of the house. Even in the upper classes, she would wear a simple stola dress at home. Ancient laws say a married woman never needed to put on a toga. The married matron's gown sufficed. Marcus thanks his wife and bids good night to his young son. Quintus, who wears a protective bulla amulet around his neck, left on until he comes of age around 14. In wealthier homes, perhaps a Greek tutor or poet is invited to read aloud from Homer as children drift to sleep. In poorer quarters, under flickering oil lamps, extended families share whatever little remains of the meal outside. The city's gates are closing and oil lamps are lit one by one. The Tiber River shimmers under moonlight and the distant footsteps on cobblestones grow soft. From Marcus's window, he hears the call of the vigils, the night watch police, and the muted strains of a pipe from a nearby corner. Above, the stars spread wide, guardians as old as Rome itself. In this gentle silence, one household quietly prepares for slumber.